you see the numbers count going?
Yeah.
All right. We are back. Welcome to the first edition of Chronicles on the Fly for quite a while. I'm Simon and this is Mel. Mel, how are you?
Good yourself? How are you?
Yeah, good. It's been a while. Where have we been?
It has. It's a busiest time of year for myself personally. So been a bit preoccupied with my main source of income.
Yeah, it's been a few months since we did a podcast, but I thought we should do one for the 20th anniversary of the most infamous terror attack ever to take place in the world, September 11.
Yes.
We did do a previous, probably a couple podcasts talking about it last year, I think.
All the conspiracy theories, yeah.
We went over all those conspiracy theories and then we did the one the following week, which was supposed to debunk all those conspiracy theories, and that one we didn't actually get recorded because I messed it up.
We record.
But yes, it is the anniversary of the 20th anniversary, so it's a big one. September 11. So yeah, media coverage all over the place.
Yes, even more significant since they have actually withdrawn from Afghanistan. So,
but before we get into that, Mel, let's fill in our loyal listeners about what we've been up to with starting our new business venture.
Yes, you've really been driving it, so kudos to you. You've been doing well.
Okay, well, the three of us have started a podcast production company. It is called Media Chronicles, keeping with the Chronicles brand, and we're now producing I suppose you could call it an international podcast, and I don't mean this one. But we've created a new podcast with two, I suppose you could say, very famous and world-renowned UK-based football analysts, pundits, journalists.
Commentators,
yeah, who have been on a number of other podcasts and still are. And how did we get involved with this? Well, one of them put the call out on Twitter a little while ago saying that the podcast that we're previously doing has kind of been ceased by, well, of all outlets, by ESPN. So ESPN no longer have the rights for broadcasting the Italian Serie A league in, I suppose, the UK and America, I think. So they were no longer producing the podcast. So I got in touch and said, "Well, how about we do it?" And we've had a few meetings and we've recorded our first preview episode just the other day. And those commentators are Nicky Bandini and Mina Rizuki. So yes, it's called Serie A Chronicles, again, keeping with the Chronicles brand. So yeah, hopefully this takes off. And I'm the producer of it, and they are the two co-hosts. And yeah, so I work together with them to produce the podcast. Obviously, they do the hosting, and I record and edit, and we do the social media and to promote. And yeah, the idea is to monetize the podcast by getting advertisers on board. So yes, go and find that podcast and subscribe at serieachronicles.com.
That's exciting ventures, exciting times.
It is exciting because they're two, I suppose, the two journos that I've followed for a long time, and in our, and the Chronicles theme or brand comes from our original WhatsApp group with, a bunch of mates talking about soccer. The WhatsApp group was called Culture Chronicles, talking about Italian soccer mainly, among other, jokes and memes and things as you do on WhatsApp. Now Signal, due to the privacy issues, we jumped over to Signal. But yeah, but we went with, instead of calling it Culture Chronicles like the group, we decided on Serie A Chronicles because that's, I suppose, more of a known term in the English-speaking world and more searchable, and more chance of being found. Yeah. If someone's searching for an Italian football-related podcast, they would type in Serie A, or Italian football rather than typing in culture. But yes, so that's underway. We record on Monday nights. They are obviously London-based. We record on Monday night Perth time, which is Monday afternoon in the UK. I spend Tuesday morning doing the edits and then publish that into the feeds ready for around 7 a.m. UK time. And the idea is to, get people on their commutes to work because it's, mainly directed at that geographic location. It's all exciting stuff.
Exciting, great timing, especially doing it on a Monday. So all the games should have been completed for the week. So while they're fresh.
Well, that's the idea, do it, on the Monday. Yeah, like you said, the round's complete. Most, a lot of weeks it'll be between the Serie A rounds and then maybe if there's a midweek Champions League and Europa League and that kind of thing. So kind of previewing the Italian teams that are taking part in that. Also talking about the Italian national team.
Their last one was pretty good victory. It was a 5-0 they won.
Becoming the longest unbeaten run in international football history now. Is it 36 or 37 games, something like that? Unbeaten.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good considering they're pretty average. Pretty average team to be actually European champions. Incredible. But strange things happen.
It does. It does.
And speaking of strange things, let's get on to talking about 20-year anniversary of the September 11 attacks.
Yes, and it's just it's just the timing of it with the withdrawal from Afghanistan. I think I think Joe Biden personally did not handle the evacuation from the withdrawal from Afghanistan too well. And just a timing with the 20th anniversary for September 11. We all know what happened. 13 US soldiers lost their lives. It's quite sad. So, but it's more symbolic because what they were trying to achieve was a symbolic withdrawal to say, look, it's done, mission accomplished, but it didn't turn out too well.
Mission accomplished. Don't say that. I think, the announcement at the beginning of this year or whenever it was that, they were going to pull out by September 11 was very tacky.
Yeah, it wasn't well planned. Obviously, we know that now, but it was, it was more of symbolicism. It was more of
very tacky to do that, because they just wanted to get the props, by doing it by September 11 or using that symbolic date to get a pat on the back for themselves. I think, but as we've seen in the last few weeks, they've absolutely royally stuffed it up, and it seems, it seems so logical that you would, all right, you're gonna withdraw, but you would do it in a not chaotic way. Do it in an organized fashion, right? You don't leave behind billions and billions of dollars worth of armory and machinery and helicopters and vehicles for these guys to just come and swoop in. Obviously, the Afghani army and police force were not prepared whatsoever to control everything themselves. How they misjudged that is just beggars belief.
It does. It's just, I've been watching it pretty closely on YouTube. Just my wife goes to me, "Oh, why are you so watching it for?" I said, "Because it's very significant in world history. What happened there? This withdrawal was one big stuff up, and it could have further repercussions down the line. I mean, they spent 20 years, $2 trillion to get rid of the Taliban, and in 3 days the Taliban's back. Ridiculous."
And in a much stronger position than they've ever had because of all the weaponry they now have.
Yep. Military, they have, I think they had more Black Hawks than, now they have more Black Hawks than 85% of the world's armies. So it was a ridiculous statistic. I was like, oh my God.
It's pure insanity. Like how they could, and the generals trying to make excuses for it as well. Oh, we could not see this coming. We didn't foresee. Any idiot on the street foresaw it because people have been saying it for months that this would happen if they withdrew too fast. It's just defies logic.
The withdrawal is not the problem, okay? Just when you do the withdrawal, number one, you had an airbase, that Bagram airbase with 2 runways, fortified airbase. They let that one go in the hands of the Taliban to focus on the other airport. I was like, what kind of advice were you generals providing? What kind of intel did you have? Why would you do that? And then the last people to leave should be the military. Yeah, what happened
And
to
how
the
many
Marines?
people they have left behind, stranded. People have been massacred from before they left,
Yeah,
Incredible.
incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And if you ask me, you don't have to even ask me. It's just obvious. Biden has blood on his hands for this.
Oh, absolutely.
All
I
these
think
deaths that have been directly caused because of this absolute stuff up is on his hands. And there should be some consequences for him, but there won't be.
No, there won't be. Did you see the latest report was, the drone strike that the Biden authorized?
Just read about this today. Yep.
It was an Afghan U.S. aide loading water into his car. Wasn't bombs.
And his family.
And his family.
So they've wiped them out because Biden gave full ability to the military to do drone strikes however they wanted. They didn't have to get, presidential sign off. Just said, you do what you got to do. And they've done it and stuffed it up completely. Yeah, it's stuff like this, the blowback that can have.
Yep, absolutely. That's why
they're just breeding more terrorism. And it's just all seems like it's on purpose. And I know that that's a conspiratorial type of thing to say, but how is it not? How can someone with half a brain do this? You know what I mean? Unless it's by design. And it's probably not. It's probably just pure incompetence, but it looks like it's on purpose. That's how bad it is.
I think it's pure incompetence. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
That's
pure incompetence to the point that it looks like it's by design. That's how criminally insane it is. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just weakened the US's stature across the world as being leaders,
Oh, it's a perfect it's emblematic of the fall of the American empire, I suppose you could call it.
Especially that scene of Biden when he puts his head in his hands when he was taking questions. I thought, oh God, you're the leader of the free world. He should have.
He's no leader, mate. He's just a puppet. I wonder if it's him making the decision to pull out the way they did. I don't know. It's all very strange. And the uproar about Trump for the previous 4 years, like he was so bad for his nasty tweets and nasty things that he would say, and his non-presidential manner and his bullshit that he would carry on with. But compare that to this. What's worse?
Well, I don't think Trump would have left in the way. Yeah, his own ego wouldn't have let him
Trump
go.
did the deal with the Taliban, right? But he has said multiple times that he was going to do it in a proper organised fashion. Now, would there have been some chaos that would have, been involved if Trump was the president during the withdrawal? Probably. There probably would have been some kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
But I just can't see that it would have been like this.
I can't see his own, like I was saying, his own ego letting him do this. He's a very egotistical man, so he wouldn't let this happen. And could you imagine the backlash he would have copped? Looking at his watch while the 13 servicemen come off the plane. I was like, oh my God.
Biden still tries to blame Trump every chance he gets. Oh, the previous administration did a deal, blah, blah, blah. All right. But you are the president now. You can do whatever you want with that deal, because as soon as he got in, 5 minutes as president, 5 minutes later, he signed 20 or so executive orders to roll back, things that Trump did.
Mm.
But this one, no, we had to go along and do it, I don't know. Yeah. It just seems like it's all on purpose.
Yes.
For what end, God only knows.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I don't think
who it could benefit to withdraw like this, it's just unfathomable.
I just think it's sheer incompetence. That's what I think. So if I had to put my money on it, that's what I think. I think it's just incompetence. They're led by generals that are too focused on stuff that they shouldn't be worried about. Like General Milley's comment, I'm worried about white rage 2 months before that this happened. I'm like, that's your job. Your job is to work out Afghanistan. You're worried about white rage. I mean, like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all this wokeness has creeped into the military where there should be just no concern.
Yeah.
Security and being a strong force is all that should matter for the military. But it's just a sign of a culture that is too privileged and has it too good.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. It's
That's Afghanistan.
Then the sad part is I was looking at 20 years of progress that they've made in Afghanistan for the young women, for people in general. It's all gone down the toilet. I mean, most people have never, a lot of young people have never experienced living under the Taliban. So some of the pundits were saying, oh, but they've just gone back to what they knew before. I said, man, there's people that that was 20 years ago. Imagine you lived your life semi sort of normal. Look at these poor women, never had to wear burqas. Now they've got to go put the burqas back on. And I think they've just gone backwards.
It's insane. You know, imagine being a 10, 11-year-old school kid. All you've known is going to school, and you know, you might be hopefully living in an area where things have been, you know, okay in the country. Yeah. Just living a normal kid's life, and all of a sudden you can't go to school anymore. You know, just because you're female. Can't go to university anymore, and you know, getting ready to become medical professionals and things like that, and that's all gone.
And the other one was quite funny, was that if the United Nations actually recognise Afghanistan as the United Nations recognise the Taliban as the leaders of Afghanistan, they will go back to Afghanistan. Will have the seat on the United Nations Women's Council. Can you believe it? That's insane. It's absolutely insane.
But what led to all that? The day the world changed.
It did.
September 11. Can I just say about September 11? A few things that, I don't know, I was just thinking about it this morning. A few things that popped into my head about firstly, like the cultural impact, right? One is a very minor one. This is a very minor thing. But the fact that we all call it 9/11, you know, this thing happened in America. So the whole world has adopted the American date format. You know what I mean? I know it's a silly thing, and it's probably, you know, not that relevant. But instead of being 11/9, like, you know, we would normally do it. The event is 9/11.
It's actually got a better ring, but 9/11, to be honest, than 11/9.
And it also, you know, because the emergency phone number in America is 911. I mean, what's the chances of that?
1 in 365.
Yeah, very good.
1 in 365. That's all they can. That's all they depict just one day.
And I've been listening, you know, to podcasts and you know, watching documentaries and that kind of stuff. I got to tell you, like, I've been not obsessed, but
intrigued.
September 11 has always interested me, like, because it's such an unbelievable event. For the last 20 years, I've just been wrapped in reading about it, watching documentaries. I always have been that way, right? Especially in the last couple months, you know, now that, you know, media coverage has been building up to this 20th anniversary. So I've been watching heaps of documentaries about, you know, George Bush's presidency and all that kind of stuff. Mainly, you know, stuff that we wouldn't have access to normally here. I pretty much, you know, pull it off the internet, you know, American programs and stuff like that from PBS and all this kind of stuff. I find it very interesting, all the stuff about 9/11 leading up to it and all of that. But I find that all this commemoration stuff, these, you know, podcasts, radio shows, it always starts out with the same question, right? You know, if there's a host and a guest, for example, it's always like, oh, where were you?
Where were you?
Right?
I was playing cards. Annoying. I remember that. Yeah, but I remember. I think it was just significant.
But I find that annoying that's the first thing that people go to, right? Mm. Why do people do this? And this is about any event in, you know, any major event in history. Mm. Like JFK, right? When JFK was assassinated. Same thing. Whenever people talk about it, where were you? Who gives a rat's ass about where Joe Bloggs on the street was? Unless you were actually in New York.
Yeah, no. I think
the only time that matters is if you know that the person was actually there. But at 10 o'clock at night, wherever it was here, I was sitting on my computer, or you were sitting on your couch. Whatever.
I was playing cards.
Okay, it's so irrelevant to the conversation. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it was such a significant.
Yes, I get that, but my point is, why do people always start
Because I think
with why, where were you?
It was just a normal day. I think that's what happened. We were just doing normal things. And it was almost surreal that you're watching it on live TV and you're seeing a plane fly into a building. It's a significant...
My point about the where are you or where were you when question is that it adds nothing to the event or the magnitude or the significance of it. Right? Yeah. Maybe it's just that, we find it hard to fathom that we can be, like going about our ordinary lives and that can be so dramatically interrupted by like a major world event.
Look at George Bush. He was reading a story to a bunch of kids.
And we want to, maybe check with others that their ordinary life was just as interrupted as ours or something. That's probably where it comes from, right? I suppose so that you feel like a sense of comfort about it, that you were doing something just as ordinary as the next person. And I don't know.
I just remember
but it just doesn't interest me for some reason. It's just not how my mind works in that situation.
I just remember just having a feeling of weirdness just at that time. You're like, what actually happened? Like, what do you mean?
I did sit up until probably about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, just watching the coverage. Yeah. And I remember there was a Champions League round like that the next morning. So it happened like 8 o'clock. Yeah, it was about 8 o'clock our time, wasn't it, in Perth?
Yeah. Oh, it was about 8, 9 o'clock. Yeah.
And then 3 a.m. I think Roma was playing Real Madrid, and I was going to get up to watch that. But because I'd stayed up so late, I didn't obviously get up and do that. So there's my where were you when?
I was just playing cards with one of my friends and his late father. So we used to play good old Briscoe, for those out there who know.
The other thing that pops into my mind is that, what was it? Was it 19 terrorists? Oh. I think that's the number. 19 that boarded the planes, right? Yeah. The fact that those... whatever it is, 19 or 20 guys or terrorists did what they did, and in the immediate moment that they did it, and the day of, the day after, and the 20 years that's ever been since, those 19 guys would have no idea, no clue of what they caused. You know what I mean?
Well, the name Muhammad Atta will always be remembered. That guy had that in his face there.
Yes, but what I mean is, you know what I mean, that everyone else has been left to I suppose deal with. Not that we really have anything to deal with, but you know what I mean. The world was turned upside down, more or less. Yeah. But these 19 guys, absolutely clueless to the fact, because of the simple fact that they immediately no longer existed, either in real life or in any version of any afterlife you could think of. That's it. In a flash, they just no longer existed. But what was left behind was the biggest upheaval in world history, possibly, bar the world wars, I suppose.
Yeah, but
yeah,
true. It's funny you say that.
That is an amazing concept to me. I don't know whether that has any kind of meaning or significance. You know what I mean?
The concept of just off topic, but I know what you're saying. Gavrilo Princip. You ever heard of that guy?
Say his name again.
Gavrilo Princip. He's a Bosnian guy who shot Archduke Ferdinand.
He's the one who shot. Okay.
Look at the. You think directly and indirectly what that guy had actually caused.
Yeah, I have read or heard that wasn't as significant as kind of you learn about in school.
It was a tipping point of what happened, right? That was the catalyst, right? Now, because of that, World War I started. World War II started because of World War I. and then you go, okay, now Afghanistan started because of what the Russians was the original Russian invasion and back in the 80s.
I watched something in one of these documentaries the other day, go back a bit further than the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, was that America goaded Russia into doing that invasion of Afghanistan. So you could take things back more steps. Why they did, I don't know, something to do with the Cold War, and I'm not going to go into I just can't remember everything that I watched about it. The dominoes fall. How far back do you go to work out which was the first domino?
Well, that was a pretty big domino, I think, when Grivilio.
Yes, but even with that, right, shooting Archduke Ferdinand to begin World War One, no doubt there were dominoes that fell before leading up.
Yeah.
There was tension between Germany and Yugoslavia, I think, at the time, or whatever it was.
Or Bosnia, yeah. What does it? Yeah.
So what were the, dominoes that were falling, with this tension between the countries back then?
There'd been tension in Europe from the late 1890s. There'd been tension for years. There'd been a war brewing. But again, I think that was the crux of that guy shooting the Archduke was integral.
Well,
that
was
it. That's what started the war.
The straw that broke the camel's back, right? Probably.
Now, look how many people died in World War One. Look how many people died in World War Two. Look at the outcome of World War Two. What happened? You had a divided Germany, the start of the Cold War, the rise of communism, and how many people died under their systems? Or you can also say China rise from the end of World War Two because they had their own war.
Okay, so things that lead up. So leading up to September 11, they knew that something was coming.
Well, they had been bombed in 93. They blew the basement, remember?
They tried it in 93.
The USS Cole.
The USS Cole, right? This was all Al-Qaeda, right? This was all Osama bin Laden.
Yep.
The embassies in a couple of African countries, they were bombing US embassies. So they knew it was coming. They were planning. And there was a report that Bush had been given saying an attack is imminent. Osama bin Laden, right? So they knew as soon as something happened that it was Osama bin Laden, right? Now, there's all the conspiracy shit that, the US government was in on it and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Watch all the footage of George Bush and all his staff at that school on that day. Mate, they were lost. They were bewildered. If the government was in on it, forget it. No chance, all right? Again, just like Biden now, it was just pure incompetence, okay? I used to think, that's an inside job. It's an inside job. No, it was coming for years, right? And they took their eye off the ball big time.
Oh, yeah.
But look at it also from the terrorist perspective, or Al-Qaeda or bin Laden, or, if you were going to plan that, it went better than they planned.
Oh, 100%.
Because, all right, they planned to fly these planes into the buildings. I bet they didn't even expect or think that those buildings could fall. I bet that wasn't even in the plan, right? They probably had that was just an added bonus for them.
Yep.
The fact that those buildings crumbled, I used to think, it's a controlled demolition. I used to always try to find things online, about it. And it's only nut job shit that you find.
Yeah.
Same with the Building 7, right? The Building 7 looks more like a controlled demolition because it happened, 7 or 8 hours later as well. Yeah. But no, there's plenty of stuff that you can find to debunk the pseudoscience about them being a controlled demolition. So I no longer go along with that crap. But again, just an absolute perfect terrorist hit job. And there's never been one and will never be one again.
Well, we hope there'll never be one. Yeah.
That on that magnitude. Yeah. There will be, I'm sure, eventually there will be something again, but there will never be something on that magnitude. Because what could there be? Hit the White House maybe?
Oh, it depends. We don't know. Yeah, who knows? But I was thinking about it the other day, pre 9/11 travel. I mean, I only went on a couple times on a plane pre 9/11. I don't really remember going because I'm so used to going through all the body scanners and all that sort of stuff. I forgot what it was. I'm like, man, I don't think I had to do that to go through.
But this is what I mean about those going back to what I said, those 19 terrorists, no clue what they've caused, right? So look at everything. The world basically exists, in the modern age, exists from pre 9/11 to post 9/11, right? That's the dividing point. Because
for the Western world, yeah.
For the Western world, yes, right? Because, since then, what happened? Everything was, I don't know, everything seems pretty normal because we were 20 years old. So we're kids before it, we're adults after it. This is pretty much it's a halfway point of our life, you could say.
Yeah, we're 21, yeah, 21, yeah. 22.
40 now.
Yeah.
You know, it's the event of the halfway point of our life. It's our current midlife crisis, you could say, right? But you know, before then, everything seemed pretty normal, and as soon as it happened, you'd got ramp up of surveillance, right? Privacy very quickly and gradually since, you know, taken away. The war on terror.
Bureaucracies, you can add the word bureaucracy on, everything's gone mad.
Yep.
Since then.
War on terror, suicide bombings, you know, surveillance against your own citizens that, you know, began with America. Now we're seeing it here big time and, you know, all around the world. Yeah. Protests about everything, left, right and center. Wokeness, that concept of, you know, everybody being offended about everything. Political correctness. Citizens just turning on each other, the left and the right of, you know, political persuasions, political parties. Probably more so in America, but it's spread all over the world. The increasing division of the political spectrum, turning on each other and attacking each other, and nobody meets in the middle. Nobody has any compromise. Like everything in the world is so divided and so much in upheaval in the past 20 years and gradually more as the 20 years have gone on than the previous 20 years. Like it's been unbelievable. And that is the turning point.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, to say turning point makes me, there's a 5-part series on Netflix at the moment called Turning Point. That just jogged my memory. Go and watch that. Okay. It is really, really excellent. It's all about, obviously, September 11 and events pre and post. That is really good. Go and watch it on Netflix. Yeah. I spent 5 nights watching that. I was just glued to it.
He gave the government... Now, you look at just the price of insurance, how it affected us day in our lives with insurance policies. No one's covered for terrorism anymore in your insurance policy. All these little... Just how it affected our lives. It was massive. Absolutely massive.
The world is just scared of each other, you know what I mean? And this COVID-19 stuff is showing it as well. We're all scared of each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
The fact, you know, the surveillance through airports and the ridiculousness of a lot of it. You can't bring a water bottle. A lot of times you can't bring a water bottle on board with you, even if you haven't opened the seal.
Yeah, you can't bring a coffee on board.
All this kind of just nonsensical stuff. I don't know. All this stuff about liquids. It's all that stuff is born from this September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, and nothing of that had anything to do with liquids. All they had was box cutters. But we've gone, you can't bring liquids on board. You've got to have, you know, under a certain amount of your shampoo in your overnight bag and all that bullshit, that irrelevant bullshit. They just thought of clamping down on every little thing they could possibly think of, and us little ants just all comply.
Yeah, you're not allowed to bring. You weren't allowed to bring
and complain on podcasts.
You weren't allowed to, I remember you weren't allowed to bring a lighter on a plane. You're not allowed to bring a lighter on a plane. If you're a smoker, you're not allowed to bring a lighter.
I can maybe go along with it, not bringing on a lighter, because what if someone wants to set a fire? I don't know.
It's a big lighter. You know what I mean?
I know, but fire is fire. Okay, you know, an airplane, 40,000 feet in the air is not a place where you want one, but a drink bottle. I couldn't bring on a Coke bottle. I remember on 2012 on a flight, some Eastern, I think it was Latvia, I had a changeover. I had to land in the airport in Latvia and get on another flight back to Poland. And I had a unopened Coke bottle, plastic Coke bottle. Now it's Coke, right? So it wasn't water. So maybe you could see what it was. Coke. No, I had to hand over my unopened Coke bottle, 300 ml plastic bottle. I was spewing. I was thirsty. But, just absolute nonsense. We're all just scared of each other. Close the borders. Close the borders because, Western Australians can't look after a Victorian, if they come over and they get COVID and, we've got to sort them out. No, because we might be all Australians, but we're divided. All this kind of stuff. And it's all of this pandemic stuff is born from what happened after September 11 in a, maybe drawing a bit of a long bow, but the bow's there.
Yes,
that's the way I see the world.
We haven't had a good leader since for a long time.
We haven't had a good leader.
A good leader. So we ever had a good leader?
I thought John Howard was.
Yeah, he was all right. I wouldn't say he was
At least relatively to what we've had since John Howard.
economic.
Then there's no question. But even John Howard's leadership in regards to national and international events. Okay, the first one being just after he was elected at Port Arthur. Now, obviously, you didn't like what he did with the guns.
Yes, I didn't.
Okay. But there's also the argument to say that nothing like that has happened since when he did the gun buyback.
Oh, they did have a terrorist. They did have a. There was a Sydney shooting there. There was a Sydney shooting. You know, you had the Melbourne gangland wars. They all went on. They all got shot. So, did he really stop it? If you're a bad person, you're going to get a gun whether you like it or not.
Yes, I know. But hey, would you rather be Australia in relation to gun laws or America in relation to gun laws?
I think you need a happy balance.
You've been to America. Were gun shootings on your mind at any point of your trips?
No.
To America? Never?
No. I'll be honest, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I reckon I would. And maybe it's just like going for a swim in the ocean here and getting eaten by a shark. Maybe there's the same chances or even less. But I mean, you know what I mean? That's their version of sharks.
If you go to where the touristy sections are, they're not going to pull out gun violence there. You find that generally gun violence is in the lower socioeconomic, the rundown, the criminal, the bad parts. It's like anything. Anyway,
we're going on tangents there. But I thought John Howard was handled the 9/11 situation well, considering he was there when it happened.
And he handled the situation of the Bali bombing not too bad, if I do recall. That he did. That was a pretty big terrorist situation.
Like, politicians, a lot of them do step up when this stuff happens. I think none of them have shone for this pandemic stuff, probably anywhere in the world. Yeah. At least in Australia and in America, and even Britain. I don't think any politician has.
Well, from what we're exposed to, the media exposes us to. I don't think we're not exposed to what happens in Sweden or Switzerland or.
Yep. Any other thoughts on the 20 years since September 11?
No, it's just sometimes I think, what's the next one? What are they going to do next? Could be a cyber terrorist attack on.
Well, it seems to be that's where everything's going. And then basically, war with China is what keeps, the drums are beating for that, through media all the time. How realistic that actually is, I don't know.
I don't think it's too realistic personally, but that's just my opinion. China needs Australia, just Australia needs China. They both need. Remember, China's a net importer of a country overall.
They're a net importer from Australia?
No, from anywhere in the world. Like, then they're a net import. They import more than they export.
China's has a massive military, so they've got a lot of might, a lot of power.
Yeah.
So it seems. How scared do you reckon the world should be of the Chinese military intimidation that they do in the South China Sea, for example? And obviously they want to. A lot of people saying, experts even are saying that in the next 2 years they'll walk through Taiwan and take them over fully. And a lot of that is because they don't feel any threat from the United States now, because the United States is toothless.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, could be. I mean, I don't think it's in China's best interest to upset the rest of the world. That's just my opinion. I think they're a net importer, so what are you going to do, piss off everyone so no one deals with you?
I mean, look, even in World War II, British and American companies were dealing with the Nazis still.
Yeah, but it'd be different than then. You didn't have the social media aspect as in I mean,
you could hide it easier back then because you didn't have a media spotlight on it and a social media spotlight on it. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Could you imagine if an American company was still supplying, could you imagine if BHP, the big Australian, was supplying the Chinese if you're at war with them? Could you imagine? I don't think it's a wise decision for anyone to go to war, especially some with the might of the Chinese.
You're right, because there's too much economics and trade involved in it now.
The Chinese, there's 1.4 billion of them, right? They got to eat. They have to eat. They need food. They're an importer of food. So if they're at war with someone, how are you going to get the food in?
Another argument about why USA has pulled out of Afghanistan is because they want to focus more on China and what China's doing in South China Sea and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I don't buy that one. Not from Biden. So.
I mean, they've got military bases. This is USA military bases. They've got over 100 or something all over the world. They've still got troops in Germany, South Korea. All these places. Japan.
So they got rid of the ones that were in. They used to have them in Philippines, but they got rid of them. Duterte got rid of him. They didn't want them.
Italy as well.
Italy, yeah. That's part of NATO. 2,000
or 3,000 of them stationed in Afghanistan to keep that place, from falling apart. That was too much. Because that's all they were militarily.
Well, they still got them in Kuwait. Have they got them in Saudi Arabia still?
Do you see what I mean? Why it's not far-fetched to think that it was all by design.
I think it was just a publicity stunt going wrong. Oh, look, we're doing this and we're doing that, just to make the feel good. But executed with pure incompetence, that's all.
Yeah, the sacrifice of human life. The everyday Afghani citizen, there is just no security whatsoever.
I think the Tallinn image, there's always those images, like from September 11, it was that guy falling out of the building. Like when he jumped out of the building. I think the guy falling off the plane is going to be the other significant image of the whole Taliban taking over. Of an American C-117 or whatever, C-17 or whatever it is, the plane falling off.
And the one, during the flight, dangling out of the cargo area or the wheel compartment, whatever it was.
And the other one that's going to be significant, which was a big slap in the face to the United States, was when they copied the photo of the Iwo Jima when the US put the flag up in Iwo Jima in Japan.
Who copied that photo?
The Taliban. They copied a photo of the Taliban soldiers putting up the Taliban flag. It's almost about
what? And there's like 4 or 5 pushing up the flag.
Pushing up a flag, wearing US Army greens, US Army uniform, yeah, the helmets, everything. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty. Have you seen that?
Yeah, well, I've seen is it Iwo Jima?
That famous photo.
Apparently that photo was just like, it wasn't staged. It was just a coincidence thing.
Yeah, there's one they're doing.
And it's become an iconic image. The fact that the Taliban even know of that is surprising to me.
Well, unless they happen to take a photo, look exact. Have a look at it. It's pretty close. It's like, oh my god.
I bet that they did it as a piss take. Just the fact that they know about that, that it's got a cultural significance, you could say. It's an iconic image. The fact that these guys, cave dwellers, know about that is just, yeah.
And the other thing I find is that the Taliban has a Twitter feed. I'm like, what? How is that possible? They have a Twitter feed. And I had this. My brother reckons, maybe they want. My brother reckons they might want it for, maybe they want it for some strategic purpose. I'm like, surely the US has a better way to get strategic information from someone than Twitter.
You think Jack would just cut them off?
No, you can't do that. Anyway, on different news, I had my first jab the other day.
Oh yeah. How'd you
go? Yesterday I had AstraZeneca. Now, before everyone goes, what's the matter with you? Why did you go AstraZeneca? Don't you know blood clots, this and that? I was like, number one, didn't have to wait. Number two, it's a viral vector sort of vaccine, which I think, from what I understand, is, don't quote me, could be wrong. It's more the old school sort of vaccine system where they give you the vaccine so your body creates its own immunity against it, from what I understand, compared to the mRNA technology. Don't quote me, I'm not a specialist, but that's from what I could understand. And I was speaking to a few people, and the long-term results, long-term, you don't need a booster shot at this stage for AZ compared to with Pfizer.
So hang on, you still need 2 shots of it?
You still need 2 shots.
But you won't need a third as a booster?
At this stage. That's from my understanding, is that I need a third booster.
So I've had the 2 shots of the, what do you call it? Pfizer. Am I going to need a third?
Well, that's what you could need a third. I reckon you might need a booster.
Anyway, I'm fine.
I'll tell you what, but my arm was sore, which happens with pretty much anything.
Yeah, just for 24 hours, a bit of a sore arm. That's it.
I actually had a good headache. I'll be honest. I had a really big
I
headache.
think I had a headache the first time for a little bit, but nothing mad. Just pop the Panadol and I was fine.
Yeah.
The second time, I didn't think I even had a Panadol. I was fine. Just the arm soreness was less than the first time.
No, definitely the arm soreness, and my nose really stuffy, and my throat was a bit scratchy, but that's gone away. That was only for 3-4 hours, but that's gone. But my nose has been blocked. Don't know why. Don't ask me, but it has.
But still, once there's 80% people in WA vaccinated, they're still not going to open the borders.
Still.
Our fearless leader says.
Our one and only, the one who's kept us safe all along, he's not going to open the borders. So I feel sorry for all those poor people that can't see their family at Christmas.
But footy teams can come and go.
Oh, but that's all right. Of course. That's all right. It has that in Queensland. Did you see that one? She's even worse. She let all the rugby players and their girlfriends come over. And
wives.
Yeah, and wives.
And
girlfriends. And didn't let... there was a young kid who was stranded for 5 weeks living with his... he went to go see his grandparents.
Saw that.
I thought, how's the store?
Between across the New South Wales Queensland border.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only reason why they eventually relented on that and let the kid come back to the mother was because of the media pressure.
Yeah.
But not because of any, logical reason or any, just compassionate reason.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing this whole pandemic has caused, the lack of humanity in humanizing.
This is what I mean. Like when I made the link from, September 11 events coming filtering all the way through to this pandemic stuff, that we are scared of each other. Yeah. Because of this hyper security that's,
this fear-mongering.
Fear-mongering, hyper security, surveillance, lack of privacy, all this kind of stuff that's been gradually growing in the last 20 years. It leads to stuff like this. Citizens cannot cross an imaginary border. Let's just call it what it is. It's not like there's a wall or a fence. They cannot cross an imaginary border, a child, to go back to its mother. That's...
It's insane. It's actually insane.
We're living in a police state.
Absolutely.
Australia at the moment is a police state. It actually is. It's not like a theory or... It actually is.
It's absolutely a police state. 100%. 100% police state. And it's actually... it's sad. It's actually really, really, really sad that we've lost our humanity and our compassion. How many people haven't been able to see loved ones dying?
That just... What would you do? We've been lucky that we've been untouched by this, relative to the rest of the world and also especially to the rest of the country.
I mean, I was reading a story on Twitter. I
don't congratulate or thank McGowan for any of that.
Absolutely nothing. He's just done his job. And even that, he hasn't done it that good anyway. And everyone can say, oh, no, he's kept us safe. Well, what's the road to recovery?
The fact that they've just given more or less a blanket no across the board to people for compassionate reasons to go to funerals and all that kind of stuff. Far out, man. That just... that I can never be on board with.
Absolutely. Like I was reading a story on Twitter. They had a guy, he reckons his dad, his only child, his dad was here and his mum's in Sydney. No, he's in Sydney. His dad was here. They had to do a Zoom phone call. That's how he said goodbye to his dad.
To say goodbye. Imagine that.
And he's from WA, mind you. You don't know?
Well, if that was me and I couldn't get into, I would be screaming the house down. I'd probably get locked up. Because I don't think I'd handle it well. I'd probably go mental.
And I'd be saying to him, hang on a minute, if you're doing that, I'm not going to pay my you're happy to take, don't get me started on that. Like I'm saying, the compassion, and all these people going, oh yeah, but we need that because we don't need it, it's safe. Because no one affects them. But when it affects them, then everything changes.
Just the concept that, a certain group of humans can have this rights or this control, this authoritarian control over other certain groups of, civilians, humans, just because of a job you've got. I know, all right, you were elected to the job, fine, I understand that, but you weren't elected to do stuff like this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That wasn't part of the deal. And the rest of us are just expected to comply. You know, and you wonder why the world's, you know, in upheaval with all this, you know, protests for everything left, right, and centre.
Absolutely, 100%.
You know, the right to protest is great, but it never achieves anything, does it?
Well, especially in Victoria.
Does it ever? Give me an instance any time in the world when protest has achieved something.
I don't know. I don't know much about Gandhi, but everyone talks about him.
Yeah, I don't know. Not in modern day, at least.
No, yeah,
not in modern day. You know, you could say, you know, Rosa Parks or something like that. You know, not sitting at the front of the bus, and you know, during segregation in America, stuff like that. Okay, but not in modern time.
Yeah,
protest, right? You know, whether you agree with the protest or not, or whether it's a good protest, a valid protest or not, because let's be honest, some are not valid.
Yeah,
but nothing ever achieves anything that they want.
Well, what's her name? What's those protesters? Extinction Rebellion? Oh my God.
Protesters like Extinction Rebellion actually have the opposite effect for what they want to achieve. All right, in my opinion. Like, surely that can't be a growing cause, can it?
No, I don't know.
Whatever their cause or causes are.
You don't know in this.
Or because all they do is piss people off. They don't educate people. Is my point. I think if you're a protest movement, right? Veganism. Take veganism, right? You know, you got that girl going around, you know, putting blood on herself and disrupting people in Louis Vuitton stores and KFC, you know, and all this kind of stuff. That girl from here.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think that she actually convinces anybody?
No.
She doesn't actually. She just, you know, makes people rubberneck and, you know, want to watch the freak show. But she doesn't. She doesn't convince anybody to become vegan.
No, I don't think she does.
No, she surely does not. Right, and all her kind do not. But if they did a campaign where they educated people, right, go around, hand out leaflets, that kind of thing, with information, and then people in their own time, when they're not being disturbed, might look up the website that they've got on the flyer, whatever, and educate themselves. But when you get in people's faces and annoy them, right, you're only making a spectacle of yourself because you're an attention seeker. It's a mental illness, if you ask me. I think it's a character deficiency that these people that protest in that manner. 100% believe that. With people like that girl, I think there are underlying mental issues, personal issues that they manifest themselves in that way to seek attention and I don't know, I don't want to sound like I'm a psychologist, but I just think that that's what it is.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, fair enough.
Anyway, we're going a bit deep there.
But if you want to protest in Victoria or New South Wales, I think it costs you $5,000, doesn't it? They fine you. And Victorian police are renowned for being a bit heavy-handed.
Is that because you leave your your allotted 5 kilometre radius?
Something.
Or you
and
just
not
simply not permitted to protest? Because you've got to have the right, whether it works or not, you've still got to have the right to protest. But I think they're getting fines for going outside, 5 kilometre radius from their home, their residence.
How can he prove his abode? He could live under a tree. He could be homeless.
Who?
Yeah, anyone could say, where do you live? I'm homeless. I just live under a tree. That's my house.
You see Tony Abbott copped a $500 fine for not wearing a mask?
Did he? Oh, well.
Yeah, I saw it on the internet today. So he was surfing, recreational activity. Reckons he's allowed to do it, of course. Then he walked somewhere to get a coffee to a cafe, and I think he was with a friend, and I think he had his mask originally, but he forgot to put it back on after his surf or something like that. But the reason why he copped the fine is because there was some bystander who took photos of him without the mask and reported him. So now we're getting citizens. I mean, that's tall poppy syndrome too, gone mental. Because he's the ex-PM, he's a target. Barnaby Joyce, I think, has copped the fine for the same reason. Someone took a photo of him at a service station without his mask on.
And these mask mandates.
The Karens out there, mate. Oh. The Karens of the world are out in force.
And what's the male version of a Karen called?
Oh, there was one that they came up with, but I can't remember it now. Anyway.
Yeah, it's fine.
But also, I just don't think the masks really do much because, your breath still escapes it, right? And what goes with your breath is your, vapor particles and that kind of thing. So I think it's all a nonsense, these masks. Anyway, we've hit a number of subjects there.
Yes, interesting subject. It's been quite a good discussion.
Maybe we made some sense, and maybe not. Who knows?
When going back to 7-11, you know what's fascinating? Every time I watch it, there's always a new piece of footage.
On what?
I haven't seen it. I always see different footage. You know what I mean? Today I saw one. I was actually watching it this morning. That the people were at the bottom of the World Trade Center when it was falling. Like they were taking the second tower was
debris falling on them.
No, like they were right underneath, and you hear just this massive crack, and the building just fall down.
Oh, in the foyer.
No, they were just out of it. They were just out of the foyer. They were just walking out of it. I was like, holy crap, man! I've never seen
as the building that they were just in began to fall.
Yeah,
began to fall.
Yeah,
I haven't seen footage of that.
Yeah,
I've seen footage where the firefighters are in the foyer of one of the buildings and the other one starts to fall, and you can hear. The other thing that's haunting as well is footage of firefighters in the foyer, and you hear these bangs, these real loud crashes, and what it is the people falling out of the building, landing on the ground, landing on roofs of other buildings and that kind of thing, outside of the building that they're in, or that the firefighters are in. But you hear really loud crashes.
Did you? Could you? But in saying that, talk about technology and social media. Could you imagine if that happened today? How much footage you would have?
It's amazing how much footage there is of that, and not footage of it actually happening.
Mm. I remember that was a time when there wasn't a mobile phone camera.
But I think I always look at that and I think fair enough. There's footage of the second plane hitting the second tower, but the fact that there were already cameras on the first one, it's amazing that there were the building, the first building was being filmed already. I suppose it's New York at the end of the day. There's going to be cameras out. Even in 2001, there would have been cameras out left, right, and centre. And there was that French film crew. Say this again. French film crew who captured it.
I did that. Okay.
Happening as well. Yeah, I actually downloaded that documentary just the other night. So there was this French film crew that were filming a documentary about a bunch of firefighters. Just, I don't know, general documentary about firefighters. And they were out on the street nearby and they captured a heap of footage as it happened, like from the first one. And then I think, like I mentioned, those firefighters in the foyer, I think it's from all their footage. So they actually did a 9/11 documentary out of all the footage that they captured that day.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
I've got so many documentaries downloaded from about 9/11. I just find them because it's such an unbelievable event. Like, two of the tallest buildings in the world just fall on the same day. What, half an hour apart or something? It's amazing.
I went just before the 10th anniversary when I was there. Yeah, it was just before the 10th anniversary, and it was
had they built the new one?
No, they were building it. They were building it at the time.
And was the memorial all done?
Yeah, the memorial was done. I went to the museum.
Oh, you went to the 9/11 museum?
Well, it was there. Under there there was a museum there. I don't know if it's the same one or they've changed it now. But yeah, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. So,
on 60 Minutes, on 60 Minutes, I think it was last week. They did a story about a guy who was in the building when it crumbled, in one of the buildings when it crumbled, and he survived. He was on the 22nd floor in the stairwell at the time.
Gee.
And he kind of like, when it started happening, the building obviously was, the way he recounts it, the building was shaking violently or whatever, and he laid down in a corner in the stairwell, got knocked out. Apparently he fell 18 floors, so he ended up about 4 stories high, and when he came to, he was laying on his back, looked up, and he could see the blue sky. Had no idea what had happened. He reckons it was probably about 3 hours later. Yeah, he reckons it was about 3 hours later that he came to, and all he had was a broken ankle and some scratches.
That's
and then firefighter found him.
The old man didn't want him upstairs, though. The man upstairs didn't really want him.
And he had at home a 7-month pregnant wife, and he went home to her that night. And there's video footage of him arriving home that night. Imagine that. What an unbelievable story. Jeez, I'd never heard that until I saw that on 60 Minutes the other night.
Right, 18 stories. That's bloody
18 story fall. He surfed it down while he was knocked out. But he was just obviously in the perfect pocket. Who knows? Where debris didn't pulverize him. And this is the other thing. Like he got out fully intact, but other people never a trace found of them. That's unbelievable, hey?
Well, some would have been in the explosion, so
yeah.
That would have been vaporized.
But also imagine that poor bugger, and he was still pretty, shaken up about it 20 years later. The survivor's remorse. You know what I mean? Like, why me? Of all these people, why am I the one who wasn't killed? That would be hard to live with in a way.
But you'd have to change your life to do something pretty amazing.
Well, that's the other thing. He said he also felt pressure that because he'd been given this second chance, he felt pressured that he had to do something special with it. It'd be a lot of pressure.
What did he do?
You know what I mean? Well, he's just lived his normal life. He's raised 2 kids. And that's good enough to me, if you ask me. Yeah. But
there's another documentary about the kids of 9/11. You seen that?
Yeah, that's another one I've got downloaded. I haven't watched yet.
I haven't seen that one. Yeah. And they were kids that were, the partners were pregnant,
or I think some just born, so they don't remember their parents or whatever that they lost.
How many was it? 3,000 people or something, wasn't it? Just under 2,000.
Yeah, just under 3,000.
10 Australians, I think, died in that.
And the other thing is, the other one we haven't mentioned is the one that landed in the field.
Oh yeah.
I always used to wonder, where is all the debris from the plane in those images? Right.
Where is it?
But apparently it went into the ground like a dart and it got buried like full speed. Imagine that. Full speed, pointing pretty much straight at the ground. That's why you don't see much debris of the plane, because it all went into a hole in an instant.
Yeah.
Imagine.
But good on those guys.
I saw that, and I read that on an FBI website, or it was a former FBI guy who was at the scene, and he was describing he actually, that's right. He was talking on this podcast saying he went there to the scene, and he was saying to everyone else, like, where are the plane parts? What's going on? This doesn't make sense. And another guy who was like a forensic sort of expert or something said to him, "It's all, see that hole there? It's all under there." And then he said it started making sense. Once they realised the speed that it was going at, the angle that it hit the ground at, and everything.
Yeah,
there's no way it's going to stay on the surface. It made a crater, and it they had to excavate to bring it out. So I don't know. I haven't seen footage of the excavation, but
wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that one. But yeah, I take my hat off to those guys who. Good on them, mate. They took their chances. I mean, the guys had a box knife. You know what I mean? So,
well, just think, what would you do in that situation? It's you're gonna die anyway. Probably they had heard of the on the plane. Someone might have probably heard that the towers had been crashed into, so they would have known that they're next. The radio tower probably would have told the pilots this is.
Yeah, but the pilots were the terrorists. Remember, don't forget that.
The pilots were the terrorists.
Well, didn't they take over the plane?
Yeah, they hijacked the plane.
Yeah, so the terrorists aren't going to go tell them, get the radio, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, but I don't think that the first thing that happened on that flight was that they rushed in and took and hijacked. I think there was a battle to get in.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. So the pilots probably knew, I don't know, that would have been. It's amazing when you see the radar, like footage of the radar of planes all over the USA. Yeah. And they kind of time lapse it, how they all just kind of scatter towards the major airports, like all at the same time. Yeah.
They went everywhere.
It's just like America is covered with planes in the skies, and they all just redirect in an instant pretty much to the closest airport. That's incredible footage. There would have been thousands of planes in the sky.
Oh,
it's amazing. You don't realize, how many are up there.
I think the only two planes that were up at the time was Air Force One and the two F-16 Hornets, whatever it was.
There's good. I'll send it to you if you want. But there's this awesome 2-part documentary called George W. Bush. Right, it's about his presidency, and the first part starts off about 9/11, obviously, because it was, in the first year of his presidency. And it's all about that day, and they were shitting themselves, mate. Yeah. They didn't know where they should go. They didn't want to go back to Washington, like all his staff. George Bush wanted to go back to Washington, and he was demanding, "I want to go back. I want to go back." And they were all saying no and preventing him from going.
No, he had to go back to Washington.
He got there in the evening, right? Yeah. But they spent all day pretty much flying around America.
Yeah, they went to airbase to airbase.
They went to a couple different air bases where they had the right technology to do the video conferences that they needed to do and stuff like that. But the way that they took off from the runway in Air Force One, they reckon planes don't take off at that angle. There was almost an upright takeoff.
Yeah.
Incredible. Because they were shit scared of that that the president was being tracked, and they didn't know what was coming, if anything. So they were just like hightailing it out of there. Every time that they took off, it was, yes.
And then you had the two F-16s alongside it as protection.
They said that's when they felt the most safe. Yeah. They're interviewing like Karl Rove, Ari Fleischer, all these guys of the president's staff at the time. And they reckon that those F-16s were so close you could see the stubble of the pilot's beard. But they never felt better than when they saw them fly alongside. Yeah, incredible, man. Just an incredible series of events. All that, man. It's just I get engrossed in it.
I still be interested in that one. I just find that I still remember that scene of him at the school is another iconic scene.
And he copped a lot of crap because when he was told that the second plane hit, right, and he sits there for another 7 minutes before he finished up, and he copped a lot of flack mainly from the Democrats at the time. But if you think about it, it makes sense. He didn't want to panic those kids. He was on camera, and he knew that all his staff were running around like headless chickens to get information and all that kind of stuff, right? So at the end of the day, you're the president. You've got to be a figurehead. So I don't blame him for sitting there.
What was he supposed to do? I mean,
exactly.
Information.
What was he supposed to do? Jump up? Sorry, teacher.
There's a terrorist attack.
I got to go. There's been a terrorist attack? No.
Man, imagine those poor kids. Remember, they were only 5 or 6,
Well, one of them was interviewed in this documentary as well. Yeah, and that was interesting because I've always wondered what happened to those kids in that. You've never ever seen anything in the media about them.
He was in Florida, wasn't he?
I'm pretty sure it was Florida, yeah. And I was watching it with my wife, and I was just saying, I just finished saying to her, I wonder what happened to those kids. How come we've never seen them? And then they cut to the next scene, interviewing one of these kids. I'm like, oh, fuck, there we go. Just one, yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Time to wrap it up, eh?
That's it, mate. Always good chat.
All right. We'll have to do this more often.
If we could slide it into our schedules, yes, absolutely.
All right, mate.
Have a good one, champ.
Ci vediamo. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Joseph Pfeiffer didn't just answer the call that day.
901 to Manhattan.
He also made the call.
We just had a plane crash into Level 4 of the World Trade Center.
While on another routine run in lower Manhattan, Pfeiffer literally heard the sound of disaster coming.
I heard this loud noise of a plane coming overhead. And then I watched this plane flying at a low altitude race past us.
The moment captured by a film crew that had been following Pfeiffer that day, later featured in a documentary.
Plane's going this way.
Going along the Hudson River at a very, very fast speed. And so low I could read on the fuselage the word American. And then I saw the plane aim and crash into the World Trade Center.
Pfeiffer, an FDNY battalion chief at the time, was likely closest and initially in charge.
It looked like the plane was aiming towards the building, transmitted third alarm.
I remember having to slow my thinking down a little bit and create a deliberate calm.
You immediately sent your firefighters into the North Tower. Did you know what you were sending them into?
I knew that we had multiple floors on fire, and I knew that thousands of people were trapped.
He made critical decisions, ordering the South Tower evacuated before it was hit, likely saving countless lives. Among the firefighters who raced into the North Tower was his younger brother and fellow firefighter, Kevin.
My brother, as he came in, we were able to look at each other and wondered if we were both going to be okay.
And later, as the conditions grew worse, Chief Pfeiffer issued this ominous order.
And I got on the radio and said, "Command to all units in Tower 1, evacuate the building."
You were asking firefighters to leave a burning building, full knowledge that there were people that you couldn't reach.
Perhaps the first time in history that a fire chief ordered the evacuation of our firefighters with 1,000 people in the building.
In his book, Ordinary Heroes, Pfeiffer doesn't describe supermen rushing into the burning tower, but in fact, ordinary mortal men.
I look at my hero firefighters, and I think they would say the same thing, that we did ordinary things, but in an extraordinary time in history.
Including his brother. Kevin Pfeiffer.
This is my brother. With his engine company, we lost the entire engine company that day.
As we walk along here, you see all these names. These are the people we lost that day. How much do you think about the people that you and your firefighters saved that day?
That day, we saved 20,000 people. And I think that's what we have to remember.